Revelation 2374. From the 19th of June 1942. Friendly exchange of ideas. Every spiritual exchange of thoughts results in success for the soul, for it enriches it in knowledge or corrects errors and thus spreads the truth, and therefore it is extremely valuable insofar as people are thereby stimulated to think, whereas instructions from only one side can easily make people tired because thoughts digress, as well as mutual exchange cannot take place, which has an invigorating rather than a tiring effect. This is without question more valuable, for only what gains life can have a beneficial effect on the soul. The spiritual world can only be fathomed through mental questioning, since the answer is given by the spiritual beings themselves, and the human being should use his time to often indulge in mental instruction, thus often let his thoughts wander into spiritual areas and expect an answer. As soon as the human being talks to his fellow human beings about it, the flight of thought into the spiritual kingdom is very favored, for speech and counter-speech time and again directs the human being's mind towards the spiritual realm. No earthly proof can be given to him that his thoughts correspond to the truth. However, the agreement of the results of the thoughts of those who strive spiritually and whose goal of research is the beyond world is greater certainty for them for the truth than earthly evidence. And with convinced certainty they go their way, always guided by those beings to whose care they are entrusted and who also bring people together, that they support each other on this path, for if they walk together they cannot go astray. The spiritual exchange of thoughts between like-minded people promotes the maturity of the soul, it increases the knowledge and also the zeal for spiritual activity, for they also put into practice the teachings and admonitions they receive mentally from the beings of light, spurring each other on and encouraging them to work on the soul. And time and again they try to draw people into their circle, for this is the clearest evidence of a right spiritual attitude. A right connection with God and the beings of light. That they want to give to their fellow human beings what they receive themselves. Thus they cannot keep the mental knowledge locked up within themselves, but it drives them to work with it, to pass it on and to persuade their fellow human beings to accept what seems valuable to them. This exchange of thoughts is doubly valuable because it is the best opportunity to bring other people into contact with the spiritual world, which they now establish by reflecting on what they have heard, by asking themselves or their fellow human beings questions which seem to be answered by them but which are indirectly already the transmission of the spiritual thoughts of the beings of light in the beyond. If people give themselves over to these reflections which reach into the spiritual world, they need not fear erroneous enlightenment as long as they are seriously willing to come closer to the truth and have God as the goal of their striving. The inwardly affirmative attitude towards God protects them from wrong transmissions, for it results in the exclusive working of those beings which are united with God and therefore stand in truth. Thoughtful research and pondering with a heart turned towards God is the surest guarantee for right, that is truthful thinking, for it is not they who give themselves the answer, but knowing forces come into action in the form of mental transmission, which therefore must correspond to truth. If people come together who are of the same spirit, that is who have an earnest desire for truth and acknowledge God in their deepest heart and desire Him, their thinking will not deviate from each other either, and only people who are averse to God will raise counter-objections, or in order to clarify certain questions there will still be an apparent uncertainty in one or the other which will be remedied by a mutual exchange of thoughts and which is only intended to give rise to increased thinking again. And therefore it is very beneficial for spiritual development that people come together to let their thoughts wander into spiritual territory, for the mutual exchange of these thoughts is immensely beneficial for each individual, for it brings him the confirmation of the truthfulness of what he thinks about, which cannot be offered to him otherwise. Amen.